crackling surge of 50,000 volts ripped through the midnight rain and dropped a two-star Admiral of the United States Navy to his knees on the wet asphalt of Highway 168. Officer Kyle Brennan of the Summit Ridge Police Department stood over him, stun gun still humming in his fist, a satisfied sneer cutting across his face. He thought he had just taught another out-of-place black man in a hoodie a lesson about driving through his pristine, high-dollar Virginia suburb. He had no idea he had just declared war on the entire United States government. The dashboard clock of the silver 2018 Chevrolet Impala glowed 11:37 p.m. Rear Admiral Samuel "Sam" Ellison, United States Navy, was bone-tired in a way only 34 years of continuous sea duty could produce. 8 months commanding Carrier Strike Group 9 through the contested waters of the Philippine Sea had left him running on 4-hour sleep cycles and pure willpower. Now, finally home on American soil, all he wanted was the quiet of his own driveway 3 miles ahead on Harbor Crest Drive in Summit Ridge, Virginia, an affluent lakeside enclave 15 minutes from Naval Station Norfolk. He wore faded Navy athletic sweats and jeans, the kind of civilian clothes that made a flag officer look like any other guy coming home late. Light coastal rain slicked the blacktop. The Impala's heater hummed. Windshield wipers beat a steady rhythm. Ellison checked his speed, 42 and a 45, hands at 10 and 2, tags current. He had done everything right. Then the rearview mirror exploded into red and blue chaos. Decades of military discipline kept his heart rate locked. He signaled, eased onto the shoulder beneath a single sodium street lamp, killed the engine, and rolled the window down. As a black man who had grown up on the south side of Chicago in the late 70s, he knew the drill better than most. Dome light on, both hands flat and open on the steering wheel, fingers spread wide. Heavy boots crunched wet gravel. Officer Kyle Brennan, 26, 2 years out of the academy, approached with his hand already riding the butt of his sidearm. Behind him trailed Officer Jake Thornton, a pale rookie who looked barely old enough to shave. Brennan did not stop at the B-pillar. He planted himself at the driver's window and jammed a tactical maglite 6 inches from Ellison's eyes. License, registration, proof of insurance, now. No greeting, no reason for the stop, just pure hostility. Ellison's voice came out deep, measured, the same baritone that once moved carrier groups. "Good evening, officer. Wallet's in my back right pocket. Registration and insurance are in the glove box. I need to reach for them. Is that all right?" Brennan's sneer deepened. "I didn't ask for a speech, pal. Hand over the papers. Stop stalling." "I'm not stalling. I'm making sure you know exactly where my hands are going." Slowly, deliberately, Ellison produced the documents. Brennan snatched them, glanced at the name, and used the first name like a weapon. "Where you coming from, Samuel?" "Naval Station Norfolk, heading home, about 3 miles up on Harbor Crest Drive." Brennan barked a laugh and tapped the roof of the Impala with his flashlight. "You live on Harbor Crest in this piece of junk?" "Sure you do. Whose car is this really?" "It's mine, as the registration in your hand clearly shows." "We'll see. You know why I pulled you over? Busted right taillight, swerving over the yellow line. You've been drinking tonight, Samuel." Ellison's brow furrowed. "I haven't touched alcohol in 15 years, officer. My lights were checked and fully functional when I left the base an hour ago." "You calling me a liar?" Brennan's voice spiked. He leaned in, invading space, hand tightening on his duty belt. "You sit right there and keep your mouth shut. Thornton, keep an eye on this guy. He's getting combative." Thornton stepped forward nervously. "Copy, Kyle." Brennan stomped back to the cruiser. Inside, the MDT confirmed everything clean. No warrants, no record. Vehicle registered to Samuel Ellison. Brennan's jaw clenched. He hated clean returns. He keyed the radio anyway. "Dispatch, Unit 4. Need a K9. Driver acting suspicious. Possible narcotics. I smell marijuana." The lie came out smooth. Dispatch advised K9 was 45 minutes out. Brennan didn't care. He marched back through the rain. All right, Samuel, step out of the vehicle. Officer, for what reason? Because I told you to. I have probable cause. I smell marijuana. Ellison almost smiled at the absurdity. I'm a flag officer in the United States Navy. I'm drug tested monthly. There is no marijuana in this car, and you do not smell any. Brennan heard only defiance. I'm not asking again. Step out or I will remove you. Thornton's voice cracked through the passenger window. Sir, please just do what he says. Ellison unbuckled, opened the door, and stepped into the rain. At 6'2", he towered over Brennan's 5'9" frame. The sheer physical presence rattled the younger man. Turn around, hands on the roof. Spread your legs. Ellison complied, palms flat on cold, wet metal. For the record, I do not consent to any search. You have no probable cause. Shut up! Brennan screamed. He stepped in and drove a vicious kick into the inside of Ellison's left ankle, trying to force the legs wider. Ellison's footing slipped on the slick asphalt. His knee buckled. Hands slid off the roof as he tried to catch his balance and turn. He's resisting! He's coming at me! Brennan yelled and pulled the trigger on his X-26P. Crack, crack, crack. 2 barbed darts punched into Ellison's chest and abdomen. 50,000 volts detonated through his nervous system. White-hot iron spikes, every muscle locked, jaw slammed shut, eyes rolled back. He hit the pavement like a felled oak, the impact driving the air from his lungs. Brennan held the trigger for the full 5-second cycle, while Ellison convulsed under the rain. Kyle, stop! He wasn't doing anything! Thornton shouted, horror raw in his voice. Back off, he came at me. When the current finally cut, Brennan lunged, flipped the 58-year-old Admiral onto his stomach, and drove a knee hard into the small of his back. He wrenched Ellison's right arm up and back until the rotator cuff screamed. Cold steel bit into bruised wrists. You're under arrest, Samuel. Assault on a police officer, resisting arrest, DUI of narcotics. He hauled the still-twitching Admiral upright and shoved him into the hard plastic rear seat of the cruiser. The door slammed. Brennan turned on Thornton, who stood pale as death staring at the dash cam. What are you looking at? He just slipped, Kyle. The camera saw it. Brennan grabbed the rookie's vest. The camera saw him lunge after refusing a lawful order. That's the report you're writing. Or do you want the union knowing you don't back your brothers? Thornton swallowed hard. Shame burned hotter than the rain. Okay, Kyle, okay. 20 minutes of tearing the Impala apart produced nothing. No drugs, no weapons, just a dry-cleaned suit and a leather briefcase. Brennan ordered the car towed anyway and sped toward the station. In the back seat, Admiral Samuel Ellison sat in absolute silence. Back aching where the knee had landed, chest burning from the darts, wrists numb. He watched rain streak the reinforced glass and began constructing, with cold, tactical precision, the exact sequence of events that would dismantle the Summit Ridge Police Department piece by piece. The precinct was a brutalist concrete relic from the 1970s that smelled of stale coffee and floor wax. Brennan frog-marched Ellison through the back door into booking like a trophy. Officer Hank Mercer looked up from a clipboard. Look what the cat dragged in. Busy night, Brennan? Guy thought he was above the law. Fought me on a traffic stop. Had to tase him. Desk Sergeant Frank Delgado barely glanced up. Name? Samuel Edward Ellison. Date of birth? August 22nd, 1968. Charges? Assault on a police officer, resisting, failure to comply. Delgado finally looked. Gray hair, perfect posture, absolute calm. It didn't fit. Empty his pockets. Brennan dumped keys, phone, and a wet leather wallet on the counter. Delgado ordered the cuffs removed for fingerprinting. Ellison rubbed raw wrists once, then placed both hands flat on the laminate and looked the sergeant dead in the eye. Sergeant, I am formally requesting my legally mandated phone call, and I strongly advise you to look inside that wallet before you enter those charges into your system. Brennan snorted. Don't listen to him, Sarge. He's been running his mouth all night. But Delgado had survived 20 years by noticing details. He opened the wallet. Behind the Virginia license sat a solid Department of Defense Common Access card. Name, Ellison, Samuel E. Rank, ADM, Rear Admiral, Upper Half. Branch, U.S. Navy, Active Duty. Clearance, Top Secret, SCI. The color drained from Delgado's face so fast, he looked like wax under the fluorescence. His hands shook until the plastic card rattled against the counter. Brennan, he whispered. What? He got fake IDs? Delgado looked up at the man in the gray hoodie. The Admiral stared back with the cold, patient expression of a predator who had just watched the trap spring. Sir, are you actively stationed? I am the commander of Carrier Strike Group 9, Ellison said, voice clear enough for every officer in the room to hear. I returned from an 8-month deployment less than 72 hours ago. Your officer pulled me over without cause, assaulted me, deployed a conducted energy weapon against me while I was fully compliant, and then illegally searched my vehicle. Silence. Only the vending machine hummed. Brennan laughed nervously. Bullshit. He's a thug in a hoodie. Delgado turned on him with pure panic. You stupid, arrogant son of a bitch. Do you have any idea what you've done? He's a 2-star admiral of the United States Navy. You tased a flag officer. Brennan recoiled. That's impossible. He was driving a piece of crap Chevy. I restore classic American muscle as a hobby, Ellison cut in, voice like a scalpel. And yes, I live on Harbor Crest Drive. Bought it with my pension and my salary. Mercer was already on the radio. We need the chief. Wake Chief Whitaker up. Now. Delgado scrambled Ellison's phone across the counter. Ellison dialed a 202 number. The entire booking room watched in frozen horror. Yes, this is Admiral Ellison. Connect me to the office of the Judge Advocate General. Yes, I know the time. Wake him. Tell him Carrier Strike Group 9 has a situation involving unlawful detention and assault of a flag officer by local law enforcement. Scramble a legal team to Summit Ridge, Virginia, and notify the Department of Justice. We have a civil rights violation. He lowered the phone and looked straight at Brennan. I will not answer questions. I will not move from this spot. You will not touch me again. My people are coming. Chief of Police Daniel Whitaker arrived at 1:22 a.m. Uniform shirt half buttoned over an undershirt, face slick with cold sweat. He found Ellison sitting perfectly straight on a wooden bench, rain-soaked clothes still clinging to him, refusing towels and local EMTs. Admiral Ellison, I am Chief Whitaker. I cannot express how profoundly sorry I am for this catastrophic error. We will wipe all charges immediately. You're free to go. I'll have an officer drive you home. Ellison didn't stand, didn't blink. I'm not going anywhere, Chief, and you will not expunge a single keystroke. Those charges stay in your system as a permanent record of what happened here until a federal judge orders them removed. Your apology is useless. This is no longer a local matter. It was a rogue actor, a young cop who made a terrible call, professional courtesy between men in uniform. I'll have his badge on my desk by sunrise. Ellison rose. Even in a damp hoodie, he towered. Professional courtesy? Do you think this is about my ego? What happens to the young black man without 2 stars on his collar who drives through your town? The one who doesn't have the Pentagon on speed dial? What happens when Officer Brennan decides he smells marijuana? Before Whitaker could answer, the heavy roar of high-performance engines shook the thin walls. 3 black armored Chevrolet Suburbans with federal plates boxed in the front entrance. Doors flew open. A strike team in dark suits and windbreakers poured into the rain. Leading them was Captain Ryan Caldwell of the Navy Judge Advocate General's Corps. Flanking him was Special Agent Victor Hale, SAC of the NCIS Norfolk Field Office, and 4 armed federal agents. They did not knock. They took the front doors like an enemy compound. Who is the commanding officer of this facility? Caldwell's voice cracked like a whip. Whitaker stepped forward. I am Chief Daniel Whitaker. You are relieved of jurisdictional authority over this incident, Hale interrupted, flashing his badge. Under the authority of the Department of Defense and the imminent authorization of the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division, NCIS is securing this facility and all evidence pertaining to the unlawful detention and assault of a United States military flag officer. Brennan, hiding in the break room, peeked out white-faced. Agent, secure the servers, Hale ordered. 2 NCIS agents moved instantly. You can't just take our servers, Brennan yelled. Hale turned slowly. Are you Officer Kyle Brennan? Yeah, I made the arrest. He resisted. Officer Brennan, you are currently the subject of a federal investigation, Caldwell said. You will surrender your body camera, dash cam storage, taser log module, and personal cell phone immediately. If you attempt to delete, alter, or withhold any data, I will personally ensure you face federal obstruction charges carrying up to 20 years in Leavenworth. Chief, they can't do this without a warrant. Whitaker's voice was pure defeat. Give them whatever they want, Kyle. It's over. As an agent moved to confiscate Brennan's gear, a quiet, broken voice came from the hallway. He told me to lie. Everyone turned. Officer Jake Thornton stood trembling, tears mixing with rain on his cheeks. Shut up, Jake, Brennan lunged. 2 NCIS agents dropped him to the linoleum with brutal efficiency, pinning his arms. Thornton ignored him and looked straight at Special Agent Hale. My body camera was rolling the whole time. I never turned it off. Admiral Ellison never resisted. He slipped when Kyle kicked his ankle. Then Kyle tased him, and there was no smell of marijuana. We searched the car and found nothing. Kyle told me we had to lie on the report to justify the force. A heavy, suffocating silence fell. Ellison looked at the young rookie. Thank you, Officer Thornton. That took real courage. Hale nodded to his agents. Get Brennan's gear. Call the U.S. Attorney's Office. Tell them we have a cooperating witness. By 8:15 the next morning, the rain had stopped, but the storm over Summit Ridge had only begun. The military contained the leak until the snare was fully set. Ellison was transported to Naval Medical Center, Portsmouth. Physicians documented twin electrical burns on his chest and severe contusions on his back and wrists. The photographs went sealed and couriered to Washington. The Secretary of the Navy placed a direct call to the Attorney General. At 9:45 a.m., an elite federal forensic team arrived at the municipal impound lot. Special Agent Hale stood with black coffee, while lead technician Ray Sullivan plugged a diagnostic tablet into the Impala's OBD2 port. Probable cause for the stop: shattered right taillight and erratic driving crossing the yellow line, Hale read from the seized report. Sullivan wiped dirt from the right taillight. Strike 1, original factory seal, no cracks, bulb perfect, filament not even loose. He downloaded the telematics. Modern cars are rolling black boxes. Strike 2, at 11:35 p.m. last night, this vehicle maintained perfect 0-degree steering deviation on Highway 168. He didn't swerve an inch. The car was on rails. Brennan fabricated the entire stop. Inside the precinct, the atmosphere was a funeral. DOJ Civil Rights Division lawyers dispatched from Washington wanted everything, not just the Ellison file, but a decade of internal affairs. Brennan sat in an interrogation room with his union rep, Leonard Briggs, a bulldog who usually fought tooth and nail for cops. Hale slid a manila folder across the table. We pulled the data from your personal phone, Kyle. Recovered the deleted items. FBI cyber is impressive. Briggs opened the folder. Inside were transcripts of a WhatsApp group called The Gatekeepers. Brennan and 4 other Summit Ridge officers. Briggs read aloud, face going gray. Brennan, October 17th. Caught another one of those urban youth driving through Harbor Crest. Smelled weed. Tossed his car. Officer Mercer, October 17th. Nice. Find anything? Brennan, October 17th. Nah, but I smashed his taillight with my maglite so it matched the report. Left him in cuffs for an hour on the curb to teach him a lesson. Brennan, November 9th. These people think because they get a little money they can drive through our town. I love seeing the look on their faces when they realize they have zero rights here. Briggs closed the folder. Is this authenticated? 100%. We also have dash cam from October 17th, where you can hear the audible crunch of Brennan smashing that kid's taillight off camera. Documented systemic pattern of racially profiling black drivers, fabricating probable cause, destroying civilian property, and excessive force. And your department covered it up. Mercer, Delgado, they all knew. Briggs stood, picked up his briefcase. Frank, where are you going? You're my union rep. Briggs looked at Brennan with pure disgust. The union protects cops who make honest mistakes in the line of duty. We don't protect racist thugs who hunt citizens for sport. You didn't just break the law. You tased an admiral of the United States Navy. You handed the federal government the keys to dismantle this entire department. You're on your own. The steel door slammed. By noon, Mayor Gregory Sinclair called an emergency press conference, sweating under local cameras, desperately trying to control the narrative. The city of Summit Ridge holds its law enforcement to the highest standards. Unfortunate incident involving a highly respected member of the military. Officer in question terminated effective immediately. He had no idea the full scope. As he spoke, a fleet of black vans rolled up to the precinct. FBI agents in tactical vests swarmed the building, hauling out boxes of files, hard drives, and internal affairs complaints dating back 10 years. The Department of Justice wasn't just coming for Kyle Brennan. They were opening a full pattern or practice civil rights investigation into the entire Summit Ridge Police Department. A widespread, deeply rooted culture of constitutional violations. Back in his home office overlooking the Elizabeth River, Admiral Samuel Ellison sat with his chest heavily bandaged, moving stiffly. Captain Caldwell called with the update. A federal grand jury in the Eastern District of Virginia just returned an indictment. Kyle Brennan is charged with deprivation of rights under color of law, aggravated assault, and obstruction of justice. FBI took him into custody in handcuffs an hour ago. And the rest of them? DOJ is cleaning house. Chief Whitaker forced into early retirement. 3 other officers from that chat suspended pending federal charges. Summit Ridge PD is being placed under a federal consent decree. They won't be able to buy a box of paper clips without a federal judge signing off, let alone pull someone over. Ellison looked down at his own hands, remembering the cold bite of those handcuffs. He thought of the thousands of people who didn't wear 2 stars, who had sat in the back of Kyle Brennan's cruiser, terrified, voiceless, and alone. Good, he said quietly. Let them face the judgment they earned. But the fight wasn't over. Backed into a corner, Brennan's family liquidated everything to hire Anthony Voss, a notoriously ruthless Los Angeles criminal defense attorney who specialized in the indefensible. Voss never defended the cop. He simply destroyed the victim. He filed aggressive discovery motions demanding Ellison's unredacted military medical records, psychological evaluations, and deployment history. When the Navy JAG fought on national security grounds, Voss ran straight to the cameras. "What is the United States military hiding?" he declared on primetime cable, adjusting an expensive silk tie. "We have a young officer doing his job patrolling a high-crime corridor in the dead of night. He encountered a large, physically imposing man who refused basic commands. My client used non-lethal force to neutralize a threat. Now the federal government is trying to crucify this young policeman to protect a high-ranking military official. We have sources indicating Admiral Ellison may suffer from severe undiagnosed combat-related stress. Was he having an episode? Did he pose a lethal threat? The public has a right to know." Fringe outlets ran with it. They painted Ellison not as a decorated veteran, but as a ticking time bomb with PTSD, an angry giant who used size and training to intimidate a young cop. Reporters camped outside Harbor Crest Drive. Navy leadership, worried about optics, gently suggested a quiet financial settlement with the city might make the headache disappear. Samuel Ellison had stared down enemy combatants in the South China Sea. He was not about to be intimidated by a slick lawyer. "I don't want their money," he told Captain Caldwell in a tense Pentagon meeting. "I want Kyle Brennan to stand in front of a federal judge and answer for his crimes. If they want to put my military record on trial, let them. I have nothing to hide." The intimidation campaign extended beyond the Admiral. Officer Jake Thornton, the rookie whose testimony had blown the case open, began receiving death threats. Thin blue line extremists branded him a rat. Dead animals appeared on his lawn. Tires were slashed. The harassment grew so severe, the FBI placed Thornton and his pregnant wife into protective custody in an undisclosed safe house in West Virginia. Voss's strategy was chaos, muddying waters, planting seeds of reasonable doubt. He banked on getting Ellison on the stand and badgering him until the Admiral lost his temper. One raised voice, one flash of anger, and Voss would point to the jury. "Look at him. Look how aggressive he is. My client was terrified of this man." It was a high-stakes psychological war. The courtroom would be the battlefield. The trial of the United States versus Kyle Brennan opened on a sweltering Tuesday in the heavily fortified federal courthouse in downtown Norfolk. Judge Malcolm Reeves, a no-nonsense jurist with 30 years on the bench, presided over a packed gallery. Prosecutor Claire Donovan of the DOJ Civil Rights Division methodically built the case. Dash cam of the fabricated stop, pristine taillight. FBI cyber experts reading the gatekeeper's chat aloud. But everything hinged on day 4, the testimony of Rear Admiral Samuel Ellison. When he entered the courtroom in immaculate Navy dress whites, 3 rows of ribbons, 2 silver stars on each collar, the air itself seemed to shift. He took the oath, sat in the witness box, and answered Donovan's questions with precise, unwavering clarity. He detailed the unprovoked kick, the surge of the taser, the agonizing pain of the arrest. Then Anthony Voss strutted to the podium, predatory smile in place. He skipped pleasantries. "Admiral Ellison, you're a big guy, aren't you? 6'2", 210. "I am. And you've seen combat. You're trained to kill, isn't that correct?" "I'm trained to defend the United States." "Yes or no, Admiral? You are trained in lethal hand-to-hand combat." "Yes." Voss paced in front of the jury box. "So, when Officer Brennan, a man much smaller than you, asked you to step out of the car, you felt insulted, didn't you? You thought, I'm a 2-star admiral. I don't have to listen to this local beat cop. You got angry. You got aggressive." "Objection. Counsel is testifying." "Sustained. Keep to the facts, Mr. Voss." Voss ignored the reprimand, stepping closer, invading space. "I have your medical records right here, Admiral. In 2018, you were prescribed a sleep aid during a deployment. Were you experiencing stress? Were you prone to outbursts? When you stepped out of that car in the dark, didn't you tense your muscles? Didn't you drop your shoulder to lunge at my client?" He was practically shouting now, face red, throwing everything he had to make Ellison flinch, to make him yell back. Admiral Ellison did not blink. His posture remained perfectly rigid. He looked at Voss not with anger, but with the cold, pitying authority of a man completely in control of his own soul. "Mr. Voss," he said, deep voice carrying flawlessly across the silent courtroom, "I have commanded billions of dollars of nuclear-powered assets. I have made life-or-death decisions while standing on the bridge of an aircraft carrier in hostile waters, responsible for the lives of 5,000 sailors. If I lacked the basic impulse control to handle a minor traffic stop in my own neighborhood without resorting to violence, the United States Navy would have stripped me of my command decades ago." He paused, letting the weight settle into every juror. "I didn't lunge. I didn't resist. Your client violently assaulted me because he believed my life had less value than his ego. He was wrong." Voss opened his mouth, Nothing came out. The angry veteran narrative had just been annihilated by Ellison's flawless, unshakable composure. The jury was no longer looking at him with fear. They were looking at him with profound respect. "No further questions," Voss muttered, retreating. But the DOJ wasn't finished. Claire Donovan had held one final piece of evidence back, a devastating twist the defense never saw coming. She recalled the FBI lead forensic technician. "Agent, during your investigation of Officer Brennan's personal devices, did you analyze his Apple Watch?" "Yes." Voss leapt up. "Objection! This wasn't in the primary discovery index." "Your Honor, it was submitted in the supplemental index on Friday," Donovan countered smoothly. "Defense counsel had it. He simply failed to review it." "Overruled. Proceed." "Agent, what did you find?" "Officer Brennan utilized an app called Voice Memos. The app is voice-activated. At 11:33 p.m. on the night of the incident, 4 minutes before he pulled over Admiral Ellison, the microphone was accidentally triggered while Officer Brennan was talking to himself in the cruiser." Donovan turned to the jury. "Let's listen to what Officer Brennan was doing just before he claimed to have spotted a swerving vehicle with a broken taillight." The audio played through the courtroom speakers. Hum of the cruiser engine, sound of rain. Then Kyle Brennan's voice, clear as a bell, dripping with malice. "Look at this guy driving an Impala through Harbor Crest. Think you belong here, buddy? Let's light him up. I'm going to ruin this guy's night. Watch this." A collective gasp swept the gallery. Brennan, at the defense table, buried his face in his hands. He knew it was over. The audio proved premeditation. It proved malice. It proved everything. The jury deliberated less than 3 hours. When they returned, the foreman read the verdict. "On the charge of deprivation of rights under color of law, we find the defendant, Kyle Brennan, guilty. On the charge of aggravated assault, guilty. On the charge of obstruction of justice, guilty." 2 federal marshals stepped forward, slapped steel on Brennan's wrists, the exact same cold click Ellison had heard on that rainy highway, and led him away. Brennan looked back one last time. No defiance left. Only the terrifying realization that he was about to spend the best years of his life in a federal penitentiary. 6 weeks later, Judge Reeves sentenced Kyle Brennan to 12 years in federal prison without the possibility of early parole. The Summit Ridge Police Department was functionally dismantled. Under the crushing weight of the federal consent decree, the city was forced to fire half its command staff, implement rigorous anti-bias training, and establish an independent civilian oversight board. Chief Whitaker's pension was severely reduced. 3 other officers from the Gatekeepers chat pleaded guilty to lesser civil rights violations. Officer Jake Thornton received a formal commendation for his courage and was eventually transferred to a prestigious federal task force. His career salvaged by his willingness to tell the truth. As for Rear Admiral Samuel Ellison, he gave no triumphant press conferences. He simply put his uniform back on, returned to Naval Station Norfolk, and went back to work defending his country. But his quiet, unyielding stand on Highway 168 sent a shockwave across the nation, a reminder that justice, though sometimes delayed and often fought against, can still arrive with the force of 50,000 volts. True strength is never found in the flash of a badge or the crack of a taser. It is found in the man who refuses to become the thing that tried to break him, and who forces the system to remember that no one is above the law, and no one is beneath it.